The strategy that I chose for the best practices presentation is the Kansas Links vocabulary strategy. The objective of this strategy is for students to remember a vocabulary word and the meaning of that word. Students do this by memory-enhancing stories, rhyming words, prior knowledge, and visual imagery tools like images. Links can be used in all classrooms, including core content, foreign language, general education, and even special ed. It will be more effective for some than others in each situation, but it typically works best in science and social studies classes. This is because of the new and difficult vocabulary terms within those classes, and it would work really well with students with disabilities that have memorization or vocabulary problems. Materials needed are index cards or something to write on, a pencil, and a book ring or a Ziploc bag to keep all the links cards in. This strategy doesn't require very many materials, and you could change them and adjust them to however you wanted, which is really good. Specially designed instructions, supplementary aids and services that would be needed for students with disabilities. 3 disabilities that would most likely benefit from the link strategy are dyslexia, traumatic brain injury, and specific learning disability. These students would not need an excessive amount of help like extra time or one-on-one help from the teacher. Students with disabilities may need more instruction to get started, some extra time to draw visuals or write out examples, and teachers will need to check in on students throughout the process of completing a link study guide. Students with dyslexia would benefit from this strategy because they typically need a little more help with reading words and being able to comprehend a large amount of words because they see it and understand it differently. Students with traumatic brain injury may have had memory loss when their accident happened, so they have difficulty remembering vocabulary terms. This strategy would break the words down into easier things to remember, like a personal story or an example. So this would cause students to have more information connected to the vocabulary word instead of just the word. Students with specific learning disabilities can be affected in areas like reading comprehension, basic reading skills, and so much more. So the links strategy would help practice these areas and find ways to improve the areas a specific student has difficulty in. The procedures in this strategy are fairly simple and anybody could do them. So the first one is the student or teacher divides the index card into, it says 6 sections, but it's actually supposed to be 5. This can be done by dividing the front of a card into 5 even spaces. This can also be done by dividing the front of an index card in half, making 2 sections, then divide the back in half with the bottom half split into 2 sections, resulting in 3 sections on the back. So 2 on the front and 3 on the back, which would equal 5. Students must write the vocabulary word in the first box and circle it. Then students write the reminding word in the second box, which is any word that is similar and reminds them of a vocabulary word. Students write a story using or referring to the reminding word in the third box. Students draw a picture of anything that they can connect the vocabulary and or remind word to. Students write the actual factual definition in the 5th box. The students use these steps to make a links index card for every vocabulary term that they're supposed to know. Each student keeps all of the index cards to refer to and study. The first reference that I have is this one, which is a PDF or a worksheet of examples of links tables. So this is what the index card would look like. So these 2 on the front and then all 3 of these on the back, or all 5 on the front. So you can see here how they did it and how it's supposed to look. which would be good for teachers learning how to do it or even being able to show students what it's supposed to look like. And then down here at the bottom, it actually shows what LINK stands for. So the L in LINK stands for list the parts. Then the I is identify a reminding word. N is note a linking story. C stands for create a linking picture. And lastly, S stands for self-test. The second reference that I have is a web source, and that is a YouTube video.
Vocabulary. A strategy, if you recall, is anything that we use in order to help us understand things.
Of a teacher showing
vocabulary word that you're
how he uses the link strategy in his classroom, which his classroom seems to be a little bit older than elementary because he's using more sophisticated words and stuff, but anyone can watch this and really understand how you're supposed to use it and how it's supposed to look in an actual classroom. And then my last reference is this website, and it is SlideShare. So there are a bunch of PowerPoints and slideshows on here about the link strategy. So you go through and you can look at all the different information, get examples and more step-by-step and detailed information about it. And this is actually from the University of Kansas Center for Research and on Learning. And lastly, I have my 3 assessment questions, and the first one is, what specific areas, if any, would you use the LINKS vocabulary strategy? How would you assess the LINKS vocabulary strategy to make sure students are not only filling it out properly, but writing down good information to study with? And lastly, how could you use the LINKS vocabulary strategy other than on note cards? Would you make different materials a choice among students to make? So would you make it mandatory to use note cards, make it mandatory to use paper, or give students an option to use either or even like a notebook or anything that they wanted? And that is the end of my best practices presentation, and thank you for watching.